all coincidences with real people are random. If they tell you that this is not the case, ignore them. Kobayashi High School was an ordinary Japanese school on the outskirts of a small town nestled among mountains and forests. Nothing unusual happened here until one day everything changed. Noriko Yamada was an ordinary high school student who didn't stand out among her classmates. A quiet, modest girl, she always sat at the back of the class, avoiding extra attention. But one day when she arrived at school, she noticed a strange symbol drawn in chalk on the board, a spiral. This simple shape immediately caught her attention. She felt a strange sensation inside, as if the spiral was calling her. I wonder who drew this, Noriko thought, not knowing that this symbol would be the beginning of her nightmare. The next day, Noriko saw the spiral again, but this time it was on her desk. At first, she thought it was just a prank by one of her classmates. However, she began to worry when the symbol appeared everywhere in her notebooks, on the walls of the corridors, even in the margins of her textbooks. Spirals were everywhere, as if they were following her. Days passed, and she noticed that her classmates started behaving strangely. They stopped talking, walking through the school like zombies, with empty eyes and unnatural movements. Noriko tried to talk to them, but it was as if they didn't hear her. She began to feel cut off from the world. Soon, strange rumors began to circulate. Students said that at night, strange sounds could be heard in the school, like whispering. Some claimed to have seen shadows sliding through the corridors, but no one dared to check what it was. Hiroshi Takeda, one of Noriko's classmates, was the first to disappear. He was a typical bully, often teasing Noriko. One day he approached her and mocked her fears about the spirals. That same evening, he didn't return home. His worried parents called the police, but the search yielded no results. Hiroshi vanished without a trace. The day after his disappearance, a new spiral appeared on the classroom board, but this time it was drawn in blood. The teachers were shocked, but couldn't explain where the blood had come from. Noriko began to feel that her own mind was becoming increasingly unstable. She saw spirals even with her eyes closed. They began to invade her dreams. In these nightmares, the spirals turned into whirlpools, pulling her deeper and deeper until she woke up screaming. Kobayashi High School began to change. The corridors grew longer, the walls distorted, as if someone invisible was trying to bend the space. The number of students dwindled. Some went home and never returned. Others simply disappeared like Hiroshi. Those who remained became silent shadows of their former selves, wandering aimlessly through the school, repeating the same thing over and over. Spiral. Spiral. Noriko became increasingly consumed by fear. She started to feel that she would be next. She tried to tell the teachers, but they, like the students, seemed to have lost all interest in life and did nothing. At some point, Noriko noticed that her own body was beginning to change. Every day, she saw strange marks resembling spirals forming on her arms and legs. She tried to get rid of them, but the marks only deepened. One night, when Noriko stayed at the school alone to try and figure out this nightmare, she felt an overwhelming urge to go to the basement, a place where students were strictly forbidden to go. Her legs seemed to lead her there on their own. The basement was dark, cold, and damp. In its depths, she saw something that made her heart stop. On the floor, surrounded by spirals, sat a figure twisted and contorted into impossible poses, its face hidden behind thick hair. When Noriko approached, the figure lifted its head, and Noriko recognized herself. It was her, but distorted, turned into a horrific creature, devoid of any human semblance. The creature opened its mouth, and a whisper emerged, "Join me. Become part of the spiral." Noriko tried to run, but her legs wouldn't obey. The spirals on her body began to move, pulling her into the madness. Her consciousness began to unravel, turning into chaos of spirals, which grew stronger with each passing moment. The next morning, there were no students left at the school. Kobayashi High School was closed, and the locals said that no one dared even approach the place. Over time, the building began to crumble, but the spirals on the walls never disappeared. No one knew what happened to Noriko and the other students. But every night, a faint whisper could be heard over the ruins of the school spiral. This nightmare will never end because the spiral is eternity, from which there is no escape.